PR Connections Radio presents. This episode of We Have the Power is brought to you by Classy Communications, PR, and Advertising. Classy Communications provides public relations and marketing solutions for businesses, professionals, and non-profit organizations. They can deliver the true meaning of your business with press releases, social media marketing, web development, email marketing, book publishing, and much more. Wherever your potential clients are, they can help you connect with them. Visit classycommunications.net to learn more about their suite of services that can help your business stand out from the rest. Classy Communications is your solution for business success.
Hey, it is the end of the month. I don't have my panel in the back because today is a special show that I do at the end of the month. So you want to be a blank. And I figured that since I have been a musician playing guitar and drums since 1969, I was a good one to talk about what it's like to play music and all the things that come about with that. For anybody who thinks they might want to be in a band or be the head of a band. And we'll talk about A to Z on that right after this important message. I'm Brian Gardner, your host of We Have the Power and our special once a month presentation, So You Want to Be A, and today it's So You Want to Be a Musician, right after this important message. If you have the proper tool, usually things just go better. And one of the best tools in keeping our young people away from drugs and alcohol abuse are the booklets from the Drug-Free World Truth About Drugs organization. Now, they have a series of booklets. Certainly, this is a drug that is out there, marijuana, and also they have it in Spanish. These booklets are free. You just go to drugfreeworld.org and you can obtain these booklets and share them with your family members, your friends. And this is a way to make sure they have the proper information, because these booklets do not say, don't take these drugs. They say this will happen to you if you do. And there's also a compilation booklet that has a series of different topics in there. One is alcohol, one is ecstasy, cocaine, crystal meth. We know that inhalants can be abused, heroin, LSD, and even prescription drugs can be abused. So use the right tool, get these free booklets from Drug-Free World, and avail yourself and your family members, especially young people that you know and are in your family, of these booklets, so that we protect our young people and our loved ones from ever getting involved with drugs or alcohol abuse. That is a very good idea. That's something I'm going to take up in this discussion, which I think will actually be part one, because I have been a musician since 1969. And when you've been a musician that long, those of you who are math whiz, I think it's about 56 years. And, you know, when you've been a musician that long, then it gets to be a situation where you have a lot of different memories, different experiences, and, you know, you can then, 56 years, I just checked on my calculator, then you can share a lot of good information that might help someone who's thinking about playing music or getting into a band to avoid various pitfalls. So the first thing is, I got started by looking in a magazine, saw a drum set, and I said, I want that drum set. It was very inexpensive. I kept adding to it. Then I got a better drum set, and I decided what I wanted to do was play drums. And luckily, Creedence Clearwater was in music, because I'd only been playing about 6 weeks, and I could play songs like Proud Mary that have a pretty basic beat to them. So that got me involved with it. Then I rehearsed, and then I got into a better band and a better band. Now, a key thing that you'll hear before we talk about if you're going to play music, you know, what kind of music do you want to play, all that kind of stuff. You're going to find that in today's world, pot marijuana is everywhere. Now, I don't think it's fair that people smoke pot and blow that smoke into your face, especially if you're not smoking cigarettes or smoking pot. So I just tell people, if I was in a band and I had to be in that band with somebody who smoked pot, hey, don't do it where I have to breathe it in, and don't do it late when we're loading up because the police show up, say, why are you loading his equipment at 1:30 in the morning? I don't want to have somebody puffing on a marijuana cigarette and I get implicated when I don't do that. So you might have to take a look and set some ground rules, especially if you're the head of the band. But if you're in the band, you have a right to say, hey, I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke pot. I'd like if you guys would keep that away because I don't want to breathe in secondhand tobacco smoke or secondhand pot smoke. And it doesn't make you more creative if you use drugs. That is a lie. You can throw that in the garbage can right now. It is not true. Okay. Drugs cause more of your reactive part of your mind to be active. It has never helped anyone. Maybe if you have a medical condition, I suppose that marijuana might be good for that. But certainly it does not make you more creative. Now, if you're smoking, you're not going to be able to smoking cigarettes. You're not going to be able to be very energetic on stage because tobacco smoke causes cancer and ruins your lungs. So why would you do that to yourself? Same thing with alcohol. The band I'm in called Manzanita that I've had going for 17 years has always had a policy, no drinking alcohol while performing. That might seem antiquated, might seem weird, but would you drink alcohol in your cubicle at work? No. You'd probably be fired immediately. Well, you're working when you're playing in a band, even though it's a creative thing. It doesn't look good to the people that hired you. You probably aren't going to play as good. And you're going to be setting an example that the band is kind of slipshod. I have nothing against drinking wine with dinner, drinking alcohol if you're not going to be driving. But if you're working in a band, just cut out the alcohol. Don't take drugs. Be professional and show the person who hired you that you are a professional band. You don't do that kind of stuff. Now, let's talk about professionalism. People sometimes have not run into this kind of situation. They're in a band newly, haven't been in the band much. They get to the gig 15 minutes before they're supposed to play. They're rushing around going, oh my God, where's my strings? Where's my chord? They look like a bunch of goofballs. What if there's an accident on the freeway that you have nothing to do with and the traffic is backed up and you get to the job after? Did you hear the word? After you're supposed to start. Always get to the gig at least an hour before you are scheduled to play. And you might go, oh my gosh, I can get set up in 15 minutes and I have to sit around for a while. That is better than being able to set up in 15 minutes. There's a heavy traffic or a car wreck or something. Now you get there with 3 minutes to go before you're supposed to play. How do you think that's going to look to the person who hired you? I'm not hiring these guys again. They're not organized. They're not professional, whatever. You get there an hour before, there's always some sort of logistics that's going to pull you away, and you're going to be so glad you got there early. Okay? Get to the gig early. What if you have trouble finding the place? Maybe it's a difficult bar or restaurant to find. You should always have GPS on your phone so it can tell you how to get there. And even that can be faulty. If you have two cities next to each other and they both have an Elm Street, you got to make sure you got the right Elm Street, because you do not want to go to the Elm Street on the city over here and you're supposed to be there at 7:00 and you're over here. Now you got to drive all the way over here to be on time. No, make sure you have the right address. If you're out and about like a outside salesperson, it'd be a good idea to go by. Let's say it's Monday or Tuesday and you're an outside salesperson. And at lunch, you can swing by the place you're going to be playing at on Friday. Now you know where it is. Okay, that's a good idea. You get to the gig early. During the week, you check your chords. You don't want to get to the gig if you play an electric guitar, an electric bass, or an instrument that has to be amplified, and you didn't check your chords during the week. You get to the gig and you only have one chord with you, and it doesn't work. You should, if you're a guitarist, you need to have two guitars with you at all time. In case one breaks a string, let's do it this way. It looks a little better. If one breaks a string, you still have a backup guitar. You don't have to have a backup drum set, come on. But, and even bass strings don't really break that often. But as a guitarist, those strings are lighter, I would always have a backup guitar ready to go. I would always have two sets of guitar chords, two sets of mic chords. Have your own mic stand, have your own music stand, the type that are like this, that you can't see through, not those ones that look like this, that are cheap and fall over if you sneeze on them. They aren't professional if you need to use books for the material for the songs you're playing, which is okay, if you need to. Check out your equipment, make sure your amp is in good shape. And if your amp is dusty from sitting around, before you go to the gig, get rid of the dust, because if the person that hires you walks by and goes, "Oh, look at that. They haven't played that amp for a while," or they don't take good care of it, So you want to make sure everything looks pretty clean, that you have. If your mic stands, music stands have dust on them, clean them off, make the stage look nice and clean. Let me diverge and give you an example. The Coca-Cola Corporation makes billions of dollars the world over from selling brown-colored sugar water, right? And when you pick up a Coke bottle, you see their logo, you're going to get a certain quality drink. It's not going to taste weird like some off-brand or anything. They're selling you on, this nice label. If you went to the office of Coca-Cola in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, I think is where they're based, I bet you could eat off the floor of the corporate office for Coca-Cola. Why do they keep that office so clean? Because if you walk in and take a tour of their facility and there's dirt all over the place papers all over, like this, papers laying around, everything, you're going to kind of go, ooh, I wonder if the Coke is dirty. I wonder if their machines are dirty when they're pouring the Coke in the bottle. It's an impression. It's a feeling they get. Well, if you show up and your equipment looks shoddy and thrown around and all that. Now, I know some guitars can be worn out looking and trendy. That's different. But if your amps, are tattered, the vinyl is sticking up, and all that. If I was the person that hired you, I'd go, man, how are these guys going to sound? Now, if you sound good, that's good. But still, the visual image needs to be professional. Look at your equipment before you start going out to do gigs. How does it look? Does it need a little sprucing up? Do I need to dust off a few things? The next thing is when you're setting up, you don't want to look like a first-year NASCAR pit crew. Well, okay, I'm going to put the tires on. I guess I'm supposed to. I guess I'll put gas in the car. I don't know. No, you want to, everybody knows you got 4 people in the group. One person's job is to get the mics and the mic stand set up. Next person's job is to get the amp set up. Next person's job is to tune the guitars. Next person's job, blah. Okay. And then you look organized, and the owner's going, hey, look at these guys, man. They're plugging stuff in. They're doing good. They're getting set up. You also need to assign a person who can speak properly. A sentence with a capital at the beginning and a period at the end. And I don't mean writing stuff out necessarily. I'm talking, can this person communicate? I'm just going to adjust this a little bit here. Sorry, just one second. Okay, so can this person communicate that you're putting as your number one person? Because somebody has got to talk to the person that hired you. Say, hey, how you doing, Mr. Jones? Glad we're here. Thank you for hiring us. And let us know if, throughout the night, if you need us to play louder, play quieter, any kind of other suggestions you have. And who do we see about getting paid tonight? And do the band get free drinks? We don't drink alcohol, but do we get, to keep us hydrated? Okay, where are the bathrooms? Whatever, somebody's kind of got to be the point person. It can be a male or female, but the best person in your band, not like, hey, Mr. Schmidt, I think, well, we're glad to be here, I guess. We've never played here before, but can we get paid at some point at the end? And do we get free drinks? That's important to us. More important than your customers. You can tell by the look on my face. You know what I mean? Come on, you got to, use some finesse and professionalism. And when you first get there, this point person you pick, Sally or Bill or whoever, goes up to the person that hired you. Hi, we're here. We wanted to get here early, make sure everything's all set. Where did you want us to set up? Okay. And is there a PA? Yes, no. And are there plugs? Okay, cool. Get all those logistics out of the way. And the owner will go, wow, these people are organized. Instead of just, hey, we're here, man. We're going to set up now. And you set up in the wrong place and you got to move everything. And now you got the owner stressed out because he's trying to deal with his employees, deal with his customers coming in, and he's got to deal with you that you can't figure out the way out of a cardboard box. Okay? He'll pick a person to be the point person that can think in a different situation, because every gig is going to be different scenarios coming up that will challenge you. Well, we used to have the band set up over here. You're going to need to set up over here. You'll have to go up in the elevator to the second floor. That's another thing. Boy, you want to be on time. You want to be ahead of time to gigs like that because, load in, equipment in, up the elevator, off the elevator, back down. Oh, God. Where do you park the cars after they're unloaded? Who is guarding the cars while they're being unloaded? You never want to leave the equipment unguarded. And here's why. People who are ripoffs, thieves, will watch for an opportunity when you aren't watching the equipment. That's when they're going to steal something because you're not watching. They're not going to do it while you're standing around going, hey, you come over here, dude, you're going to be in trouble. I'm watching you. That's not when they're going to try to steal something. They'll try to steal something when everybody, some people have gone to load the equipment and I got to go to the bathroom. I'm leaving. And you leave the equipment unguarded. Okay. Same when you're loading back into the vehicles. Somebody has got to remain with the equipment in the club. You cannot count on the waitress. You cannot count on the owner. They are busy with their own stuff. You don't want to put them in charge of your equipment. That's a burden that you're putting on them. And you don't look professional that you can't even have someone who's designated as security inside and outside. Very important. Now, we're kind of running close to the end of the time for today. That's why I want to do another one of these. This is part one. We'll do another one in a couple of weeks. So watch for that. Another thing I can say with the time we have remaining, and I have experienced the results of what I'm about to tell you. A different version of my band, Manzanita. I've had several over the years, 17 years that I've had this band in Northern California and here. A different version in Las Vegas. We played on Water Street for, I think it was something nights, Friday night music or something like that. And we played and we did good and they liked us. And then I took it upon myself to send a handwritten thank you note to the person that hired us. Got a card. It was thank you, or it was blank, and I made it say thank you. Handwritten note, put a stamp on it, got it to the post office, Email schmenails. Okay, they get 4 billion of them. You send a handwritten note in the mail, a handwritten card, not a crappy piece of paper. Send an actual card, a thank you card. I did to this one woman. She got back to me. I think it was an email or a call, but she took the time to get back to me and say, Brian, guess what? You're the only band that sent me a thank you. Now, did she remember our band? Absolutely. Did I do it only to get her remember? No, it's mannerly. It's manners to thank her. But she's going to remember our band and go, I'm going to count on these guys because they were on time. They were not a problem. When my person came around to check on the bands, they were friendly, they were communicative, they didn't have a list of problems. Oh, we'd like to be somewhere else. We don't like our location and, whatever, all problems. You want to be a problem solver for the people that hire you. If you solve problems for them, who are they going to hire? The problem band or you that solves problems for them every chance you get? Remember that. You should be taking notes from this thing. Not that I'm the most brilliant musician, but I have some good stuff here that has been proven to create good results and future bookings. Because think of the owner who is also in charge of booking bands. And, if you were in charge of booking bands, can you imagine the rainbow you get? Good, bad, ugly, weird, drunk, drugged guys dealing with, calls, when you can't talk and they want to stay on the phone, whatever. So if you can solve problems for them, they will remember that. When their assistant comes to them, Sally, and says, hey, who do you want me to book for next weekend? The ABC band. Why them? They were so easy to work with. They were on time. None of their equipment ever failed. When I went up to talk to them, they had a person that was kind of their representative. She was easy to talk to. They were friendly. They were smiling. A couple of my long-term customers went up to them. They were friendly toward them. They wanted a song. Luckily, they could play the song that my long-term, really valuable customers asked for. Man, this band, ABC, get them. Okay, we'll get them back. That's how you create future bookings. Now, let's look at the reverse before I run out of time. Who should I get for next weekend, boss? Do not hire the DEG band. Why not? They were late. Their equipment is falling apart. They asked me if they could borrow a flashlight because there was something wrong with one of their amps. They got here late. They weren't personable to my customers. One of my long-term customers came up to talk to him, and they kind of said, hey, dude, look, we're kind of busy right now tuning the guitars. Could you come back later? Horrible. Took hours to get out of here when we all wanted to go home, loading up. So these are things to remember, and I would write them down, put them in a little three-ring binder, not three-ring binder, but a spiral little binder, notes on how to be a good band. I'm out of time, but I want to let you know I'm going to continue this in future episodes of We Have the Power. We go live every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific. So watch for future examples of this, and I'll be giving you more examples over my 56 years of being a musician. A lot of good tips I can impart to you, and we'll go over some of these again. If you think you want to be in music, this today is something to rewatch. And then if you want to be in music, want to be in a band, keep checking to see when I'm going to do the next segments of this. And you will learn a lot of information and avoid many pitfalls that could make it really unpleasant to be a performing musician. And it should be fun. And it will be. I'll help you with all the successful actions I have used and found that worked over the years. Thank you for watching today. Tune in again. I will be imparting more good information about if you're in a band already, or if you're thinking about getting into a band, this information will help you. And of course, I want to help my future musicians and fellow musicians that are out there right now. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.